Welcome back to Take It or Heave It. I'm Wes Soltis. This is Ryan Peters, editors at HEAVEmedia.com.
Last week we talked about the worst way to die. Wes chose getting hit by a truck while you're inside a porta potty, and I just chose getting struck down by an ambulance at the height of irony. This week we're going to talk about what is the worst situation that you could be born into.
Well, my mom told me this story, so I don't know if it's true or not.
Is it about you?
No.
Oh.
Not that I know of. It could be, though. It could be like...
I thought you said the worst thing to be born into is the Soltis family.
The Soltis.
Say your mom is not going to be happy to hear that. I've met your mom, and she's a sweet lady.
But there was this lady, I guess, who was pregnant, but she didn't know she was pregnant and thought she had to go to the bathroom. Goes into the bathroom, sits down, a baby pops out and falls into the toilet.
You've been reading my diary.
I think that's the worst way to be born.
So she dookied out a kid.
I guess so.
That's pretty intense.
Yeah.
I think if I were going to go with one, I would go with if your mom or just a woman in any situation who was pregnant was scuba diving and the baby came out while you're wearing that rubber suit and you had to get out of the water and you're just up on the back, stuck in there. I have to cut an air hole for you real quick. I think that would be bad.
I think the baby would suffocate, though.
Not if it really tried.
Can you go scuba diving if you are pregnant?
You can if you try, and I think the baby could live if it had the willpower to.
Fair enough. First album we're going to look at is The Caesars with Strawberry Weed, out August 19th on Astroworks. The Caesars have two different types of songs. On one hand, you have the danceable, clap-along, sing-along songs, and on the other, you have songs that are lost in this mix of distortion pedals and weird click sounds. This is coupled in with the fact that this is a double disc, and double disc very rarely work because you have two okay albums as opposed to one really good album. I'm going to have to heave The Caesars.
I agree with Wes that the double disc album from the Caesars is a bit too long. They could probably cut it down to one album and it would be one really, really strong album rather than a decent double disc album. But, that being said, I still think that the tracks are strong enough to make the whole thing work. There's a cool pop melody feel to the whole thing that's mixed in with a lo-fi attitude, and the band switches back and forth between kind of garage rock toss-offs, some punk rock, and like I said, some pop songs. So I think the whole thing works pretty well, even if it is a bit overlong. I'm gonna say, you're probably right. All the double disc albums, especially the ones released within the last 20 years, with the exception of maybe two, you could pare them down to one album. They'd probably be better.
Yeah, I mean, the only double disc I can think of recently that I really, really liked was the Tarkio album.
Yeah.
But that was Colin Malloy, so dude's awesome.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. He could release 7 discs and it'd be good. But yeah, I mean, there's so many instances where you have a bunch of songs and say 8 to 10 of them are good.
Yeah.
But you have 24 that are going from good to bad, semi-okay, and you decide to release them all, and it waters it all down.
Exactly what it does. It blunts the impact of the good songs. I mean, the only two good double disc albums that I can think of from the 1990s onward is Crooked Rain from Pavement. I love Pavement, and then I actually really liked the Red Hot Chili Peppers Stadium Arcadium album. I thought that was really good. I mean, out of the 800 tracks or so that's on that, there's only maybe 2 or 3 that I skip, so it's a good album.
I mean, overall, I understand, bands want all of this stuff to be released, and it's their work, and, if you can work out a double disc, why not, I guess, but I think, you just take away from the overall product for the most part. But then again, I'm sure people are more inclined to buy a double disc.
If they feel like they're getting, more for their money. Of course, when In Rainbows came out, they released the second disc, or the bonus disc. And
that was better.
It was better. I mean, I like the first disc a lot. I almost wish that was a double disc album. So I think it's really just that musical artists try and mess with you.
Yeah, for sure. The next album we're going to look at is System and Station with A Nation of Actors, out August 20th on Latest Flame Records.
The new System and Station album is going to be out, like Wes said, on August 20th, and then after that, they're going to immediately start touring the country. So if you want to know when they're going to be in a city near you, just go to systemandstation.net and check out their tour section.
What System and Station did on this album was introduce an ambience to their already angular, built-to-spill-like sound. What this did was create a little poppier album than their previous 3. If you haven't heard System and Station, I suggest you give them a try.
I think it's interesting that the vocals for System and Station sound so much like Perry Farrell because the music itself borrows a lot, I think, from early Jane's Addiction. There's a really eclectic blend of punk and pop and edge rock that makes for a really, really diverse album, and the speed tracks are mixed in with ballads, which makes the whole thing feel really, really expansive. I like it a lot, and I'm going to take it.
Next up is The Stills with Oceans Will Rise, out on August 19th on Arts and Crafts.
The Stills originally hail from Canada, and if you haven't heard, Canada is a fucked up place. A couple of weeks ago, there was a guy on a bus who stabbed somebody else in the neck, and then when everybody else freaked out and ran off the bus and locked this guy on the bus with the knife, he cut off the guy's head and started to eat it until the cops got there. Now, the Canadian Prime Minister came out after that and said, oh, the bus system is safe, everybody's cool, but don't trust him. I know that, I mean, like, we're in Chicago here, and the transit system is totally fucked up, but still, no one has ever, to my knowledge, cut off somebody's head and eaten it, except for Wes.
The Stills got a little moody on Oceans Will Rise, which is a complete departure from the dancey, like, grooves of their first album. It's actually a complete 180, but luckily the Stills are talented enough to pull it off. It's part funk, part Americana, even though they are Canadian, and all very compelling.
Oceans Will Rise has a dark feel to the bass work, but it's offset, at least to some degree, by the presence of piano and synthesizers. I think there's more energy on this album than there was on previous releases from the Stills, and I don't know if that has something to do with the fact that they toured with the Kings of Leon last summer, but I get a feel that the last Kings of Leon album kind of influenced the new Stills, and maybe that's just a connection that I'm making, but I hear there's a lot of kind of southern rock groove to the album that's mixed in with like the 80s synthesizers, and it makes it for a really, really interesting mix. So I like the album, and I'm going to take it.
The last album we're going to look at is Perhapst with Perhapst, out August 19th on In Music We Trust.
Perhapst is made up of John Moen from The Decemberists and Stephen Malkmus on guitar. The two of them met while Moen was playing in Malkmus's band The Jicks.
Moen's voice may put you to sleep on this record, but not in a bad way. It's more of a motherly, lullaby, time for bed type of way. This is coupled in with quirky yet elaborate and sophisticated instruments that may take a hot minute to grow on you, but eventually it will and you'll really like it.
I think that the whole album has a really relaxed, kind of tossed-off vibe to it, which is good because it matches up well with the like indie, experimental, and folk rock vibe that it has going on. Unfortunately, there's about half the tracks that are really, really stripped down and another half where there's a full band kind of playing with them, and it's the latter that sounds better. They sound more fleshed out, more muscular, and it only happens about half the time. That being said, there's nothing wrong with the other set of tracks either, and it makes for an interesting album, or at least a diverse one. So I'm a little bit on the fence, but I think I'm leaning towards this.
For the Caesars, I just liked the double disc album, but Ryan thought the songs were strong enough to sustain the collection. For System and Station, we both thought the band's blend of garage and punk worked well. As for the Stills, Ryan and I both are terrified of Canadian buses, but we do love the Stills. And for Perhapst, Ryan was on the fence, but we both decided to take the experimental and folk disc.
That'll do it for this week's edition of Take It or Heave It. This is Wesley Allen Soltis. I'm Ryan Peters.
So I was thinking of a DJ name for you. I've actually been thinking about it long and hard, and I think it's gonna be Fraggle Douche.
Fraggle Douche.
Yeah.
Well, I could get like a name tag or a shirt.
DJ Fraggle Douche.
I was thinking of one for you. I was thinking I was gonna go with Strawberry Shortcake and the Butt Thumbers.
That makes sense. I was also thinking maybe Major Burns would be good for you.
That's...
You'd wear like a some sort of like sailor suit. It would be pretty cool.
I'm gonna call you Sergeant Mammogram and the Kid Baloney's.
That's good. That is good. I think I will take just Kid Baloney.
Just Kid Baloney.
Yeah.
Can I be Sergeant Mammogram then?
You can.
That almost sounds like the name of an adult movie.
It does. It does.
Okay, if you know a different or possibly a better DJ name for us, although it's not going to get better than Sergeant Mammogram and Kid Baloney, go to the site and either leave us a comment or click the link to the poll and tell us what you think that our DJ name should be, and then look for us as we tour the country coast to coast as Sergeant Hambone and the Trumpeteers.
Fraggle Douche. HEAVEmedia.com would like to thank the Polish Ambassador for creating our theme music. If you'd like to know more, go to PolishAmbassador.com.